Right, welcome to Colindale. Obviously, if you know Colindale, you know that that's Colindale Station, the new Colindale Station, which was opened late December, so I missed that. And the first sort of opportunity, realistically, to come and have a look at it today. I would film inside, but they'd probably have a word with me. And there's plenty of footage of that, I'm sure, somewhere else. So you can see how the new building fits in. They took out where the bridge went over the road, allowed them a bit more space to put the station in, and the old station sits next to it. They haven't knocked that down yet. And when I say the old station, that was a sort of a partial new frontage that was put onto the sort of 1960, I think it was, station lobby. It's a complicated history for Colindale Station, which you can read about elsewhere, I'm sure, quite reasonably. I'm interested to see what happens to these four houses, which were built, I think, around about 1900 or thereabouts, just after. And in one of those houses, I believe, lived the owner, or the part owner, of a opera business, the name of which escapes me. But I think there should be some information somewhere about it if you delve deep enough. And he owned a store, a theatrical store, so where they kept all the props and stuff a bit further down the road, which I can probably show you in a second where the site of it was. These houses here were put up in the 1980s and replaced the site that was the Public Health Laboratories building, which is a big tower. And big towers now are these sorts of things and those sorts of things over there. So a very, very different sort of Colindale from probably only about 15-20 years ago. So much of this has gone up and changed. And to be honest with you, Colindale Station had to be rebuilt because the amount of traffic going through it just didn't make sense anymore. But this building, some people wondering why it is like it is. It is supposed to be reminiscent of an aircraft hangar, and then that just repeats back on the RAF Museum and RAF Hendon that used to be further down the road down there. So that's why it's like it is. But again, that's something you probably are aware of already and you might have read about. So it's quite an impressive building, and I think it actually is quite a welcome touch to the area, which is unfortunately now becoming full of rather bland looking apartment blocks. So this is something new to sort of celebrate. So you get a reasonable idea of what it's like inside. It's quite nice to see that they've moved the clock that had been on the platform into there, but that I don't think is an original clock. It's a bit of a fake one. Just try and zoom in on that if I can. There it is, just there. That site there used to be the British Newspaper Library, which is why you have this strange piece of public art there. And then down there is Colindale Park. Now that building there, I think, is probably going to be pulled down or taken down in the next 5 years or so and replaced with something a bit more substantial that comes to the side of the road. When that station entrance goes, that old station entrance, and you can see if you I'll just zoom in again. Try and zoom in. You can see there where there's a bit of old masonry and brickwork. That's the remnants of what used to be the bigger building that was on that site. There used to be some shops and an office block that was put up in the late 50s, early 60s. And that was pulled down and they left the entrance. Don't quite know what's going on here. They've got traffic lights, and that's presumably they don't feel they can run traffic on both lanes. Is that to do with it? What's sure about the strength of the bridge? Don't know. But it can't stay like that forever. Now, I'm sure I've probably done bits of video down here before, so there's nothing particularly new from that point of view. So it was an opportunity to show you that station entrance. And then what I'll do is, as I had mentioned it earlier on about the site of where the prop store was for the opera company, I'll just fit that in. But it gives you an opportunity yet again just to talk about these old houses too, which have been here for, I should imagine, the same length as the other ones. I think there is probably dates on them, but they're 1890s, early 1900s. And this is sort of old Colindale. And it may be remnants of the houses put up by the owner of Garston's suitcase factory, which was a bit further down the road there. It's really busy in this area now, really busy. So yes, the newspaper library was on this site as part of the British Library, and that got moved and they knocked it down, and that was probably about 8 years ago, something like that, maybe even 10 years ago. They're so busy, never used to be this busy. Used to be quite quiet, strange enough. The best building on this site here is this one, which is called, rather lovely, it's called Colindale. You might just be able to make that out there, Colindale on that stone. That is, to me, the nicest set of buildings on this road. Now, where the prop store for the opera company was probably about here, because this is a sort of entrance in, so I think it was about here. It was quite a small building, and it was then used, I think, by a mineral water company, sort of made sparkling drinks, that sort of thing. My hand's really cold. It's very cold. It's early January. This house has remained left on its own, incredibly, in amongst all this lot. Now, as we move down, this site here, going down from this point onwards, was where Garston's suitcase factory was, and that was put up around about 1902 or thereabouts, and then it was taken over in the, I think, the 1920s by a company called Tilly, who made lamps. Tilly lamps, which were gas-filled lamps, so you would use them in the house or for camping, etc. And for some people, the name Tilly will still mean something. And they were there until probably the late 60s or thereabouts. You see the houses just sort of come to a bit of an end here. So it sort of made sense that this is where you would put workers' housing if the factory was here. They would just literally cross the road. There was no excuse for being late. I just can't get over how busy it is around here these days. I remember it being a lot quieter, although there was a lot of people living here, not as many as there are now, and it shows. I don't know why this is called Ajax Avenue. I'd love to know. I'm sure that Hugh Petrie of Barnet Heritage Service will know about that. The Barnet Libraries. It's very messy here. I'd imagine that this lot is probably penned for demolition and rebuilding. This is all going to be high-rise stuff eventually. It's gone that way. Over there is the UK Health Security Agency, which used to be the Public Health Laboratories, I believe. That's where a lot of work was done on COVID-19 back in 2019, 2020. And we're just about to pass over the Silkstream River. Tips of my fingers are really cold now. I can't do this with gloves on. But yeah, this is the Silkstream. Which eventually runs, it's flowing in that direction. Okay, it eventually runs through to the Brent Reservoir, otherwise known as the Welsh Harp. So there we go. I'm not going to then join, there's some more houses here which we do with factories. I'm not going to do any more on this video because it was supposed to be about the underground station, and like I said, I'm sure I've done videos before, so we'll leave it there, and thank you very much for watching.